About a month ago, I installed the Buice Extreme Low coilovers on the BMW, and since then, a bunch of people have been commenting and messaging me asking for like a full in-depth review. Now, I will review these at some point. It's just, I've only had them on for a month, and since then, we've been in lockdown, so I haven't really driven too much. I've been going for drives in the evening, like just to get out of the house, but I haven't really put any serious mileage on these just yet. But I do want to do like a first impressions video. I want to talk about the quality of the kit. I want to talk a little bit about the installation process, the ride height with the extreme lows. That's something that people wanted to know about. And then also just the ride quality in general compared to what I had before. So that's what this video is going to be, more of like a first impressions video. For anybody who's looking into getting these coilovers, I hope this answers your questions. So Buice Racing has a couple different options for coilovers, and at $1,000 the BR series is their most affordable option, and it's kind of made for like street cars and daily driving. So just as a heads up, these are made to order, and I ordered from a company called bagriders.com, and they sell a bunch of different suspension stuff. They took a little bit over 2 weeks to come in the mail, and obviously it might be a little bit longer now with the shutdown. So when your coilovers do come, they are very nicely packaged. You have really nice graphic design on the box. Everything had these packing peanuts. The actually coilovers themselves were wrapped in bubble wrap. Along with the coilovers, they send you a set of these spanner wrenches, and these are what you use to adjust the ride height. So just one really small complaint is that they didn't really come with any installation instructions. They do give you these little booklets that tell you how to adjust the coilovers, but nothing really about how to actually put them in the car. Now it is kind of straightforward. You're basically just taking your old stuff out and putting the new stuff in the same way, but it would have been nice to have some diagrams with some torque specs. The finish on the coilovers is beautiful. They're an all black shock tube with black springs. And then you've got this sort of gold, kind of rose gold color for the top hats. But time will tell how they actually hold up like driving in Michigan winters. Just for reference, this is how the Bilsteins look after about 2 years of daily driving in Michigan. The only complaint that I have in regard to build quality is the little screws that adjust the camber on the front are a very soft metal, and within 2 adjustments I already stripped 2 of the 8 screws. So really these should have been made out of steel, or at the very least have a torque spit instead of an Allen, but that's just a small thing. You have to be really careful, and again, it would have helped to have some torque specs in the instructions. So let's talk about ride height, which is one of the biggest selling points for the Buice Extreme Lows, and the reason that I got these is the ability to go quite a bit lower than stock. I have the front on the absolute lowest setting that it'll go, and I can still kind of fit my fingers in between the tire and the fender. When you're lowering a car like this, a lot of people are afraid of like the bottom clearance, but really the biggest clearance issue is like between the tire and the fender. Obviously you don't want to be like rubbing the paint off the inside or anything like that, so you have to be careful like choosing the right wheels and tires, choosing the right offset. I'm going to put all the specs down below in case you want to achieve this kind of look, but we still have, let's see, about 4 inches between the bumper and the ground. So I do tend to scrape on driveways more so than before, but I'm not too worried about like bottoming out the car or anything like that. It's more of an issue of having these tires not rub up on the fenders. So for the rears for this car, the rear actually sat quite a bit lower than the front. I installed them at the lowest setting, and after they settled for a couple days, the tire was basically touching the fender. I took a picture of it, and I couldn't even really drive. Like just going down the street, it was just constant rubbing. So for the rears only, I raised it about a ½ inch, and now it doesn't rub anymore. You can raise these up quite a bit more. You can go like 2 inches up from this position. And then they also come with these little metal spacers. These can sit on top of the spring, and this will give you an extra ½ inch from there if you needed to. To me, that kind of defeats the point of getting like the extreme lows, but so this right here, what you're seeing is about a ½ inch up from the lowest setting. All right, so without further ado, let's take it for a ride and I'll give you some driving impressions. So since we moved to this kind of smaller town, the roads are actually quite a bit better because there's so much less traffic, especially less industrial traffic. I think that's the big thing, but the roads here aren't too bad, so potholes are less of a concern than they were at the other place. So one question that I've seen a lot is people are asking how these BC Extreme Lows compare to the stock suspension. Now, I haven't had stock suspension on this car since probably like 2014, so to be honest with you, I don't really remember what it felt like in comparison, but the thing is, like, people want their car to be super low, but they also want it to ride like stock. Guys, there's going to be a little bit of a compromise when you're lowering your car, especially this much. The ride is harsher. Even if you don't have the dampening at the stiffest setting, it's going to be stiffer than stock. And that's just like a compromise that you have to think about before you go into this. Now with these extreme lows, is it livable? Can you still like daily drive it? Yes, it's fine. It's not like bone rattling, like the car's not going to fall apart or anything like that. It's less comfortable than the original suspension, but if you really want that low car look, that's something that you're just going to have to live with to a degree. Alright, so right now we're coming up on some railroad tracks. These ones are actually kind of smooth, so I'm not going to slow down too much, but here we go. It's funny, I don't know if anyone else does this, but if I'm about to hit like railroad tracks or something in the road that I can't avoid, I like hold on to the car as though that's actually going to do something or like make it less bad. But let me know in the comments if you guys do that. One kind of nice thing about the lockdown, in addition to obviously gas in the US has been very cheap lately, but there's also not a whole lot of cars on the road. A lot of people aren't working right now. So the roads have been pretty empty. There has been a lot of police activity, I've noticed, so I am taking it easy here. Not that I do anything crazy normally, but always on the lookout. So right now we're heading into downtown Port Huron, and this is where the road quality kind of goes down, so I hope that you guys can pick up on some of these imperfections and you can get a feel for how these coilovers perform. Now I have them pretty close to the stiff setting. I find that having them a little bit more stiff, the back wheels tend to bottom out less, but not too bad. That bump right there was like one of the worst ones that I know of in this area. It's funny, like as a low car driver, you kind of know like what roads to take and like what lane to be in. Oh, that's a bad one. Sometimes I wonder what it looks like from the outside, like people that are behind me driving, trying to avoid, like on this road, there's like those kind of manhole covers in the street, and like over time they've kind of sunk down, so you're driving into them. Some more railroad tracks. I'm gonna slow down. Oh, but I will say that since switching to the 18-inch wheels from the 19s, the ride is significantly better. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like all of these things that you want to do to your car, like lowering and putting big wheels on, it does hurt like the daily drivability of it. And that's one thing that, like, as I'm modifying my cars, whether it's this car or like the FRS, I try to do things that don't take away too much from the driving experience. I really want to be able to just like get in my car and drive normally without having to like totally change my driving style just because of a mod that I did. So this road that I'm turning onto now is really bad. This is kind of like a side road. This is like towards the bridge that goes to Canada, but this is probably, you gotta be careful here. This is probably the worst road in this area, the worst road that you're gonna encounter, even if you live in Michigan. As you can tell from the video, this is like abnormally bad. So just to give you an idea of what it's like. Now, surprisingly, I'm not like bottoming out or like having the tires rub, but you do feel every little bump, you feel every imperfection in the street. All right, that's enough of that. We're gonna get back on one of these streets and get back onto the main road. There we go. See, when you're just driving on like smooth blacktop or concrete, the ride's not really that bad at all. It's not until you get onto those like sketchy back roads that you really feel the difference of having the stiffer suspension. So what's the final verdict with these BC Extreme Low coilovers? Well, for value, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yes, there are cheaper coilovers out there, something like Raceland comes to mind. But at the same time, there's coilovers that are like double the price of these. So at $1,000, it's kind of like the middle of the road product. You know, if you have like good, better, and best, this would be like in the better category. Ease of installation, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. If you've never worked on car suspension before, it's gonna be an 8-hour project, especially if you're just working by yourself. And it's not that it's like technically hard to put them in, it's more like physically demanding on your body, and you're definitely gonna feel it the next day. Another reason that I'm giving them a 7 is because they didn't include any installation instructions. So as far as stuff like torque specs, you're gonna be looking that up online unless you have like a Bentley manual or something like that. Ride quality, I'm gonna give them an 8 out of 10. That might be a surprise, but the fact that they made a product that allows you to lower your car that much while still retaining some decent quality, I think is pretty impressive. Now, yes, it is stiffer than stock. There is a little bit of a compromise there. It's not gonna ride like, you know, a Mercedes S-Class or something like that, but considering how much you're able to lower your car, I think that the ride quality is more than acceptable. Plus the fact that they're 30-way dampening adjustable, you can make it softer than what you saw in the video. So with that in mind, I'm giving the ride quality an 8 out of 10. So should you get them? Well, I think that if you're on a budget, you're looking to lower your car without sacrificing too much comfort, I think that the BC Extreme Lows are a really solid option. Now, like I said, in the future, I plan to do an even more in-depth review. I just want to be able to put some miles on the car first to really give these a thorough test, I guess. But until then, I'll leave the links and specs down in the description if you guys want to check those out. Give me a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, damn it. So let's talk about ride height. So search for these specs, but they do give you which you need, but besides that